The morning of June 12th began like any other in the manicured cul-de-sacs of Northwood. The sun cast long shadows across pristine lawns, sprinklers hissed in a gentle, rhythmic dance. Then the sirens came. They tore through the suburban tranquility, a violent shriek that pulled neighbors from their coffee and morning papers. The police cruisers, lights flashing in a chaotic disco of red and blue, screeched to a halt in front of the Miller residence. They were there for Liam Miller, a 22-year-old art student known for his quiet demeanor and charcoal sketches of the local park. The charge was unthinkable: the brutal murder of a local businesswoman found dead in her downtown office. Liam was in his garage, a converted studio space smelling of turpentine and linseed oil. When they kicked the door in, he looked up, startled, a paintbrush frozen in his hand. The officers swarmed him. Their commands were a blur of aggression and authority. "Hands behind your back, you have the right to remain silent." The world tilted on its axis. Liam's mother Sarah ran out of the house, her face a canvas of disbelief and terror. She saw her son, the boy she had just made pancakes for, being shoved into the back of a police car. This couldn't be happening. Not to Liam, not to her son. The community watched, mouths agape, as the car sped away, leaving a void of confusion and fear in its wake. The shockwave rippled through Northwood, then the city. The media descended like vultures. Liam Miller's high school yearbook photo was plastered across every news channel. He was instantly branded a monster, a wolf hiding in sheep's clothing. The victim was powerful, well-connected. The pressure for a swift conviction was immense, a palpable force that could be felt from the mayor's office police precinct. The narrative was set before Liam even had a chance to speak. He was the quiet loner, the odd artist. It was a story that was easy to sell, easy to believe. And in the court of public opinion, the verdict was already in. Guilty. For Liam, the world had shrunk to the size of a cold concrete cell. The bright colors of his art were replaced by the monotonous gray of the detention center. The gentle sounds of his neighborhood were gone, clanging of steel doors, distant, mournful cries of other lost souls. He replayed the day of the murder over and over in his mind. The courtroom was a crucible. The air was thick with tension, a heavy blanket that smothered every cough and whisper. On one side sat the prosecution, led by District Attorney Marcus Thorne. He was a man with a chiseled jaw and a reputation for closing cases with ruthless efficiency. His eyes, cold and calculating, rarely left Liam. On the other side was Liam's defense attorney, Elena Ramirez. She was young but brilliant, a public defender who believed in her client with a fierce, unwavering conviction. She saw the fear in Liam's eyes, the quiet desperation of an innocent man caught in a nightmare. She knew this was more than a case. It was a battle for a life. Ramirez fought with everything she had. She cross-examined the prosecution's witnesses with surgical precision. A neighbor who claimed to have seen Liam's car near the crime scene admitted under pressure that it was dark, and he couldn't be 100% certain. The forensic analyst who had found a single fiber from Liam's jacket at the scene conceded that secondary transfer was a possibility. Ramirez chipped away at the state's case, revealing the cracks and inconsistencies. But Thorne was a master storyteller. He painted a picture of Liam as a resentful, struggling artist who targeted the victim out of jealousy. He made the jury see a monster, not a boy. The pressure was immense. The judge, a veteran of the bench, seemed weary, his face etched with the burden of countless difficult decisions. Every ruling felt monumental. Every objection sustained or overruled shifted the ground beneath their feet. For Liam, sitting at the defense table, it was a surreal, out-of-body experience. He listened as strangers dissected his life, twisted his personality, and presented a version of him he didn't recognize. He felt his family's pain from across the room, a silent, agonizing current that connected them. The prosecution's star witness was a jailhouse informant, a career criminal who claimed Liam had confessed to him in the holding cell. As the trial progressed, small inconsistencies began to emerge, like hairline fractures in a dam holding back a flood of doubt. A key piece of evidence was the time of death, estimated by the medical examiner to be between 9 and 11 p.m. Liam's library alibi placed him miles away until 9:30 p.m., making the timeline incredibly tight, almost impossible. Ramirez hammered this point home, arguing that the prosecution was asking the jury to believe her client was a phantom, capable of being in two places at once. The DA dismissed it as a minor discrepancy, urging the jury to focus on the fiber, the informant. But for one juror, a retired engineer named Peterson, the math didn't add up. The emotional toll on Elena Ramirez was visible. She spent sleepless nights poring over discovery files, searching for the one thing she must have missed. The one detail that would blow the case wide open. She felt the weight of Liam's future on her shoulders, a crushing burden that fueled her relentless pursuit of the truth. She met with her investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Frank, in late-night diner booths. They re-examined every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every photograph from the crime scene. Frank, initially skeptical, started to see what Ramirez saw, a prosecution case built on circumstantial evidence and a convenient scapegoat. The pieces didn't fit together cleanly. They were forced. During a recess, Ramirez noticed Judge Wallace staring intently at the crime scene photos. His brow was furrowed, his expression unreadable but deeply troubled. He had overseen hundreds of murder trials and his instincts were sharp. He saw the aggressive certainty of the prosecutor, the desperate conviction of the defense attorney. He also saw the glaring hole in the timeline, the questionable reliability of the jailhouse informant. The shadow of a potential miscarriage of justice began to creep into the sanctity of his chambers. The system was designed to be impartial, but it was operated by fallible humans, and the judge felt a growing unease about the direction this trial was heading. Liam himself began to lose hope. The days bled into one another in a monotonous cycle of fear and despair. He would listen to Ramirez's impassioned defense, a flicker of hope igniting within him, only to have it extinguished by the prosecutor's confident rebuttals. He saw the faces of the jury, trying to read their thoughts, but they were blank masks of civic duty. He felt like a character in a play whose tragic ending had already been written. The twist came not from a witness stand or a file folder, but from the digital ether. On the Sunday before closing arguments, a young paralegal in Ramirez's office was conducting one last desperate search. Her assignment was to scrub the victim's social media and online presence for anything, no matter how small. The victim, a tech CEO, had a secondary cloud storage account, one the police had overlooked. It was an old account, barely used, but it was still active. After hours of navigating forgotten password prompts and security questions, the paralegal gained access. What she found sent a jolt of electricity through the entire defense team. Buried in a folder labeled Projects was a series of time-stamped video files. They were security camera recordings from a private server. The final recording was from the night of the murder. Ramirez and her team huddled around the monitor, their hearts pounding. The video showed the victim in her office, arguing heatedly with a man. It was not Liam Miller, it was her business partner, a man who had been questioned by police but quickly cleared. The timestamp on the video was 10:47 p.m., well within the medical examiner's window for the time of death. The camera captured the argument escalating, the man lunging at the victim and the screen going black. The next morning, Ramirez walked into the courtroom with a new, steely resolve. She requested an immediate meeting in the judge's chambers. Thorne objected vehemently, accusing her of last-minute theatrics. But when Judge Wallace saw the look in Ramirez's eyes, he granted the meeting. In the quiet of his chambers, she played the video. The color drained from Thorne's face. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint audio of the recorded argument. The evidence was irrefutable. It was definitive. It was the thunderclap that shattered the prosecution's entire case. The business partner's motive was clear: a multi-million-dollar deal gone sour. The judge reconvened the court. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The jury was brought in, their faces a mixture of confusion and curiosity. Judge Wallace, his voice heavy with the gravity of the moment, announced that new dispositive evidence had come to light. He turned to the prosecution and asked if they wished to proceed. A humbled and visibly shaken Marcus Thorne stood. He approached the podium, cleared his throat.
Your Honor, the state moves to dismiss all charges.
The courtroom erupted. The courtroom doors burst open. Liam Miller walked out, not as a defendant but as a free man. He squinted in the bright sunlight. His mother and father engulfed him in a desperate, tearful embrace. The reunion was raw, a powerful explosion of relief and love. The sounds of their cries were not of sorrow, but of a profound, soul-shattering joy. Yet even in that moment of liberation, the scars were visible. Liam's eyes held a new kind of sadness. He was free, but he was not the same. He would never be the same. The media frenzy that had convicted him now scrambled to exonerate him. The narrative shifted overnight. Liam was no longer the monster, he was the victim. The business partner was arrested within hours, the video footage providing the undeniable proof the police had failed to find. The story of the wrongful conviction became a symbol of a broken system. It highlighted the dangers of tunnel vision in investigations, the immense pressure to close high-profile cases, and the terrifying ease with which an innocent person's life could be destroyed. The community that had once whispered about him in suspicion now looked at him with a mixture of pity and shame. For Elena Ramirez, the victory was bittersweet. She felt an immense sense of relief for Liam, but also a deep anger at the system she had sworn to uphold. How many others were there? How many innocent men and women sat in cells because of overlooked evidence, coerced confessions, or simple investigative laziness? The case solidified her resolve to fight not just for individual clients but for systemic reform. It was a call to action against confirmation bias, for better funding for public defenders, and for greater accountability for prosecutors and police who pursue convictions at the expense of the truth. This story, Liam's story, serves as a stark and powerful reminder. Justice is not an abstract concept, it is a fragile construct that requires constant vigilance, integrity, and a relentless commitment to fairness.